Before our main message, I just want to address why my comments are off. My comments are off because I do not want to hear or allow the comments that usually come with messages of acknowledging wrongdoing and accepting responsibility. I don't want people to leave comments praising me for not even doing the bare minimum, but for acknowledging that I haven't even met the bare minimum. These messages always shift focus back to the white person apologizing rather than the people of color that were hurt. My comments are disabled because I don't want other white people to forgive me. I don't trust you to avoid making those comments though, so I'm removing the primary outlet to issue them. If you decide to place these comments on other videos or into community posts, they will be deleted, and if your first thought is how you can let me know you forgive me for something you can't forgive, you need to listen to this video. Over the last few months, I've made comments that have downplayed the impact of racism and the impact that it has on people of color. I talked over people of color on subjects that they should have been the loudest voices on. I made comments that were ignorant and not fully understanding of the concepts I was trying to talk about, and I harmed people of color as a result. I promised change that would often not come fully to fruition, a failure to address the roots of the problem, and instead only addressing the very specific problem brought up. I failed to call it out in others consistently and properly, and I victimized myself on more than one occasion when I was not the victim when it came to people of color. This was on a community Discord server that has since been archived at the request of the people of color on that server who were hurt by both my ignorance and negligence, and the same of the people around me. On my videos, I would often only pay the barest comments to calling out racism of both the people who worked on Danganronpa and in the fanbase, often only making a single offhanded comment before going straight back to the previous topic I was talking about. I've also only provided evidence to support the calling out of racism after a video was already released, and failed to stand ground when racism from my fans came hurtling forth at the end of the premiere. And when I was called out on my racism, I reacted badly by retreating for a while to collect my bearings, and also reacting with frustration rather than fully accepting responsibility. I also could not understand what I'd done wrong until it was shown explicitly to me. I would never intend to hurt people of color or dismiss their concerns, but the impact of my actions far outweighs my intent, and the impact extends beyond my own behavior. Being a prominent and public figure, people are going to copy my precedent. When I set a racist precedent, people copy that racist precedent. As a result of the example I set, it became very unsafe to be a person of color within my community and within the Danganronpa community as a whole. I'm very sorry that I fostered and encouraged an environment that hurt you. You did not deserve to feel hurt or unsafe. You deserved a community that let you feel secure and looked after. I let you down, and I'm very sorry. I will step down from discussions where you know better than I from your own experiences and quietly listen. Fully do my research into topics of racism with sources from people of color, and commit to speaking about racial issues when that topic turns up in videos. I cannot undo the harm that I've already done, but I can minimize future harm by being more aware of my behavior. As for what I've learned from what I've done wrong, racism and white supremacy in left-leaning spaces is nowhere near non-existent. It just takes on a different form. Because it looks different, white people in left spaces often barely recognize it, and that leads to people of color getting hurt. Racism and white supremacy are only the most blatant in people hurling slurs and being very blatant with their racial discrimination. They exist also in talking over people of color, redirecting conversations about their struggles and problems to make white people comfortable, downplaying the impact or comparing it to the oppression faced as a white queer person, a white disabled person, a white fat person, and acting like there's no people of color who not only experience these issues as well, but experience where they intersect. We're way too comfortable with saying, at least I didn't hurl a racial slur at that black man, and believing that not saying Junko isn't Latina to a Latina cosplayer is all it's going to take to uproot racism and make the community a safer place for people of color. While that's never what I believed, my actions didn't match my words, and my actions are what people see. My actions are what people replicate. If this fandom is going to become a better place for people of color to exist and thrive, then we, and especially I, can't just call out the most obvious of the racism. We need to be aware of ourselves, how our actions hurt people of color. When people of color are talking about their struggles, let them have the floor, and only ask for clarification if they are willing to educate and aren't just venting. If you can't provide anything of worth to the conversation, don't participate in it, and ask if it's alright before you do. Listen and oblige when a person of color tells you to knock something off. Call out someone else if you see them talking over a person of color, victimizing themselves, etc. If you do screw up, accept responsibility, back off, and bear that in mind for the future. Because without us examining our behavior, without us committing to do better by people of color, the racism issue in this fanbase will only get worse. Only by being active in discussing these issues and checking ourselves are we going to make our spaces safer for people of color to exist in.